You wake up at 3 a.m. Something aches. Not an injury, not a pulled muscle. Just this deep, dull throb in your hip, your lower back, your shoulder that wasn't even there when you went to bed. You shift positions. Maybe you fall back asleep. Maybe you don't. But the alarm goes off at 6:15 a.m. and somehow, impossibly, you feel worse than you did 8 hours ago, that first 20 minutes out of bed, where everything feels 10 years older than you actually are, where your back won't fully straighten, where your knees feel like they were packed in concrete overnight. You stretch a little, you drink your coffee. Slowly, you come back online. But you shouldn't have to do that. That is not just aging. Something specific is happening inside your body. Every single night, you're doing everything right. Reasonable bedtime, maybe magnesium, maybe a sleep app telling you that you got 7 hours. But you know, in a way that's hard to explain, that those 7 hours didn't actually do what sleep is supposed to do. You wake up running a deficit that coffee can't fix, and nobody has ever explained why. Every health podcast, every sleep article, every doctor visit gives you the same checklist. Cut the screens, get 8 hours, try magnesium, get a new pillow. And look, none of that is wrong, but it is massively incomplete. Because not one of those recommendations addresses what your body is actually doing to itself during those hours.
There is a specific biological window. It opens every single night in almost every adult body, where your body's own natural protection system drops to nearly zero. And during that window, something is happening inside your joints and your nervous system that your morning self is paying the price for every day. And here is the part that genuinely stopped me when I first learned it. The timing of that window is not random. It follows a clock, your body's clock. And once you understand what is actually happening during that window, the real biology behind it, a simple, specific, affordable intervention starts to make complete scientific sense. Not because of wellness trends, not because of what someone told you, because of how one specific molecule interacts with two very specific systems at the exact moment your body needs it most. And that molecule is sitting on the shelf at your local drugstore right now. Has been for decades. Most people walk right past it. If you want the real science, not generic health advice, hit subscribe. Now, let's get into it.
David is 38, marketing manager at a mid-sized company outside Columbus, Ohio. He drives about 25 minutes to the office 3 days a week and spends the other 2 on back-to-back Zoom calls from his home desk. 9 hours of sitting, more or less. With a lunch break, he usually eats in front of his monitor. He goes to the gym Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Nothing extreme, just trying to stay functional. By any reasonable measure, he is a guy who is trying to take care of himself. He goes to bed around 10:30. His wife is usually already asleep. He sets his alarm for 6:15, puts his phone face down, and closes his eyes. And for a few hours, everything is fine. Then somewhere around 2:47 a.m., and it is almost always around that time, which he has started to notice, his right hip wakes him up. Not screaming, just present. This low, persistent ache that pulls him out of whatever sleep he was in. He shifts to his left side, punches the pillow. Sometimes he drifts back. Sometimes he is awake until 4. Either way, the alarm at 6:15 lands like a verdict. He feels, and this is his word, defeated, before the day has even started. If any part of that sounds familiar, not necessarily the hip, maybe the shoulder, the lower back, the knees, stay with me, because what is happening to David is not mysterious. It is not random, and it is not, as his doctor suggested, simply a function of getting older. It has a name, it has a mechanism, and it has a clear, biology-backed response. Here is what is actually happening inside David's body at 2:47 a.m. Your body produces a hormone called cortisol. You probably know it as the stress hormone. And yes, it goes up when you're anxious or under pressure. But cortisol has a second job that almost nobody talks about. It is your body's primary internal anti-inflammatory. It is constantly, quietly keeping inflammation from running out of control in your joints and tissues. Think of it like the security system running quietly in the background. When cortisol is circulating, inflammation stays managed. But cortisol follows a very strict daily schedule. It peaks in the early morning, around 6 to 8 a.m., to help your body get going for the day. And it hits its lowest point of the entire 24-hour cycle, somewhere between midnight and 3 a.m. Scientists call this the cortisol nadir. And during that window, your body's natural anti-inflammatory protection is about as low as it ever gets. Think of it like the night security guard at an office building. During the day, everything is running, monitored, protected. But around midnight, there is a shift change. And for a few hours, the new guard hasn't fully clocked in yet. That is when the building is most vulnerable. Your joints are the rooms nobody is checking on. Now add one more layer. When you lie still for several hours, which sleep requires, the fluid inside your joints that normally circulates and dilutes inflammatory compounds slows way down. You are not moving. So whatever inflammatory buildup happened during the day concentrates, it pools. And at the exact moment your cortisol is at its lowest and can least suppress it, those compounds are at their most concentrated, in the most vulnerable parts of your body.
That is what wakes David up at 2:47 a.m. Not his mattress, not his pillow, not his age. A predictable biological vulnerability window that opens every night, and that nobody has ever explained to him. And I want to be clear about something. This is not rare. Doctors who specialize in joint conditions have known for decades that inflammation follows a daily pattern. Morning stiffness is actually one of the markers used to identify inflammatory joint conditions, because the pattern is that consistent, that predictable. What is not talked about nearly enough is that this same mechanism plays out in millions of people who don't have a formal diagnosis. People who just feel stiff. People who just wake up hurting. People like David. People maybe like you. But here is the part that genuinely surprised me. The joint pain is not just disrupting David's sleep. The disrupted sleep is making the joint problem worse. And this is where the second mechanism comes in, and where everything starts to connect. Your nervous system has two main operating modes. One is your high alert stress response state, the one that kicks in when there is danger or pressure. The other is your rest and repair state, the one your body needs to actually recover. For deep restorative sleep to happen, your body needs to get into that second mode and stay there. The system that controls that switch is a nerve, the longest nerve in your body, called the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve runs from your brainstem all the way down through your chest and into your abdomen. It is the main communication line between your brain and your internal organs. When it is working well and signaling strongly, your heart rate settles, your body shifts into repair mode, and deep sleep becomes accessible. Overnight healing actually happens. But here's the problem. Pain signals, including the low-level chronic inflammatory signals coming from David's hip, feed back through the same pathways the vagus nerve uses. Inflammation does not just hurt, it actively competes with your body's ability to rest. It keeps your nervous system tilted toward alert, towards surface-level sleep that never gets deep enough to do its job. So David is getting 7 hours by the clock. His sleep tracker confirms it. But almost none of those 7 hours are reaching the deep stages where tissue actually repairs, where the inflammatory load from the day gets cleared. He is sleeping, he is just not recovering. And there is a significant difference between those two things. Here's what I find genuinely fascinating about this. These are two completely separate problems. The cortisol window creating joint vulnerability and the inflammatory pain signal blocking deep sleep. Two different systems, two different mechanisms, but they feed each other.
The joint inflammation gets worse during the low cortisol window. The pain disrupts the nervous system. The disrupted nervous system prevents the deep sleep that would have helped repair the joint, which means there is more inflammation by morning.
which means the next night is worse. Round and round. David has been stuck in that loop for 2 years. He just didn't have a name for it. So, you are probably wondering, what does any of this have to do with a bottle of castor oil on your nightstand? Here is the thing. The active compound in castor oil, a fatty acid called ricinoleic acid, has shown biological activity on both of these pathways at the same time through completely different mechanisms. And applying it before sleep puts it to work during the exact window when your body needs both of those things most. This is not folk remedy logic. This is receptor biology. Let me explain it quickly, and then I will give you exactly what to do. Ricinoleic acid makes up roughly 90% of castor oil. What makes it unusual compared to virtually every other plant-based fatty acid is that it has shown binding activity for a receptor type called EP3 prostaglandin receptors. Prostaglandins are chemical messengers involved in both pain signaling and inflammation. EP3 receptors are the same receptor family that common anti-inflammatory medications interact with, through a different mechanism but toward a similar result. By applying ricinoleic acid to the skin over a joint, it may help calm the local inflammatory environment during the precise hours when cortisol is not doing that job. That is pathway 1, the joint pathway. Ricinoleic acid stepping in as a topical inflammation modulator during the hours when your body's internal protection is at its lowest. Pathway 2 is different, and it runs through the vagus nerve. Research on touch, specifically slow, deliberate touch applied to the skin, has shown measurable increases in a marker called heart rate variability, which is the most reliable non-invasive indicator we have of parasympathetic nervous system activity. Practical translation, your body shifting into rest and repair mode. When you apply slow, intentional strokes to the abdomen, where several major vagal nerve branches are close to the skin surface, you are sending a direct signal to your nervous system to change modes. And here's the part I find almost remarkable. People have been applying castor oil to the abdomen as a home remedy for well over a century, long before anyone knew what the vagus nerve was. They just noticed it seemed to calm things down, help with discomfort, help people sleep. And now there is a plausible biological explanation for exactly why that might be true. The old folk practice and the modern neuroscience landed in the same place from completely different directions. So, 2 mechanisms, 1 compound, applied at the one time of day when both are most needed. And when sleep improves, when deep sleep becomes more accessible, the body's overnight repair capacity improves with it. Better repair means less inflammation by morning. Less inflammation means the next night's vulnerable window hits a less inflamed system. The cycle that was running against David starts running for him instead.
Here is exactly what David started doing. 3 steps. Takes about 4 minutes total. No equipment, no supplements, no complicated routine. First, about 20 to 30 minutes before you go to sleep. Not right at bedtime, but 20 to 30 minutes before. Apply a quarter-sized amount of castor oil directly to your main problem area. Lower back, hip, shoulder, knee, wherever you consistently feel that nighttime ache. Use slow circular motions and spend about 60 to 90 seconds actually massaging it in, not just spreading it on top, working it in with moderate pressure in circles. The friction warms the skin slightly and improves absorption. A 20 to 30 minute window gives it time to absorb before you lie down and circulation patterns shift. If you are worried about your sheets, and this is worth addressing because castor oil is thick and will stain, just keep an old t-shirt near your nightstand and pull it on after application. Or lay a small towel over your pillow if it is a shoulder or neck area. Problem solved in 30 seconds. To actually make this a habit, keep the bottle right next to your phone charger. You are already going to your nightstand to plug in your phone before bed. The bottle is right there. The habit attaches to something you already do automatically. That is it.
Quick note, and I mean this sincerely. Please check with your doctor before adding this or anything new to your routine, especially if you have a diagnosed joint condition, a skin sensitivity, if you are pregnant, or if you are on any medication. This is general health information, not medical advice, and your doctor knows your specific situation in a way that a video cannot. Second, now apply a small amount of castor oil to your abdomen, specifically the area between your navel and the bottom of your rib cage. Use slow, intentional, clockwise strokes, and while you do this, breathe deliberately. 4 counts in through your nose, 6 counts out through your mouth. The longer exhale is not just a nice touch. The longer exhale is the specific breathing pattern that activates your rest and repair nervous system. You are combining slow abdominal touch with controlled breathing to send a compound calming signal. Both inputs are traveling toward the same place. The effect is additive. This takes 90 seconds. Set a timer if you want. When it goes off, you are done. There is no reason this should feel like a big commitment. 90 seconds.
Third, immediately after, within the next few minutes, get your bedroom to somewhere between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the temperature range that sleep research consistently identifies as best for falling asleep and staying in deep sleep. Here is why this matters in context. The calming shift you just triggered with the castor oil and the breathing, it can be undermined by a room that keeps your body running warm. A cool room supports the drop in core body temperature that triggers melatonin release and keeps that rest and repair state going through to sleep onset. You are not adding a step here. You are protecting the work you just did in steps 1 and 2. If you have a smart thermostat, set a schedule so the bedroom drops to 66 degrees by 10 p.m. automatically. You never have to think about it again. If you don't have a smart thermostat, crack a window, use a fan. A basic box fan costs less than $15 and works perfectly. This is not an expensive fix. David has been doing these 3 steps for about 6 weeks now. He has not overhauled his diet. He has not changed his workout. He has not bought a new mattress or a new pillow or a new supplement. What he told his wife, and I think this is the most honest way to put it, is that he stopped waking up feeling like he had been fighting in his sleep. The 2:47 a.m. wake up has not disappeared completely, but it happens maybe once a week now instead of every night. And when it does happen, he drifts back within minutes instead of lying there for an hour. His mornings, his words, feel like mornings again instead of damage assessments.
That is what working with your biology instead of against it actually looks like. Not dramatic, not overnight, but real and cumulative and grounded in something that makes sense once someone takes the time to explain it. Your body is not randomly failing you at night. It is following a clock, and now you know what that clock is doing. Tell me, which of these affects you the most? A, I wake up in pain between 1 and 4 a.m. B, morning stiffness that takes over an hour to shake. C, I am exhausted at night but still feel completely unrested by morning. D, all 3. This is me every single day. Comment A, B, C, or D below. I read every single one. Share this with one person who has been told their symptoms are just stress or just aging. One share could give them the answer they have been looking for.